what to do with the number 29 overall pick.
Mm.
And I think JP brought up a good point last week that I really agree with. When you look at pick number 29 versus where this team has been drafting in the top half of the draft the last couple of years, obviously last year we knew at number 2 they were going quarterback. But the last couple of years, you had a general idea of where they could go. This
Yeah.
year, they could go almost any position outside of the quarterback position, and it would not be a shocker.
It wouldn't be a shock, but as you and I just finished talking for an extended period of time, I think if you lean towards a big guy, it wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
they talk about how deep the D linemen are. You got some more offensive linemen that could be sitting there too. Hell, you got receivers that might be sitting there. So you could probably go either way, but I think you start off all of this with the big guys. When you hear Adam Peters talking about building from the draft, people make that whatever they want to be. There's a point in this league where you can go get some certain guys from teams that have not made that name yet. But if you build from the draft and you get the right guys, all of a sudden you start having that stable of guys that's hitting every year. And then you get that 4 or 5 year period going.
Well, and I think
things happen.
A lot of people looked at, so last year, Adam Peters joined Grant and Danny, and he had said that they weren't going to go on a spending spree and that they were going to build through the draft and then supplement through free agency. And then people looked at him signing so many free agents last year and said he didn't stick to his word. And I think they're wrong. I think they still are trying to build. Look at the positions.
How many people in their draft that they drafted last year played last year?
Well, but look at the positions that they drafted. The positions that command the most money in free agency are what? Offensive tackle, quarterback, corner, those sorts of positions. Those are the guys they drafted
them.
And so that's how you build. I can go find, I can't find a Frankie Louvu specifically, but I can find a guy that plays linebacker for a good deal in free agency. I can find a guy. Look how much Saquon Barkley was making last year. I can go find a guy that runs the football like that for cheaper than I can a wide receiver. And so what they did is they built by drafting important positions, and then they spent at tight end. They spent at linebacker. They spent at positions where, okay, we can get better value here than we can through the draft. And so what they did is they did that. And this year, I think they could do the same thing where you try to build on that offensive line or D line, whichever one, like you said, that probably is the priority at 29. That's the priority position where Myles Garrett's going to cost you a lot. Even if you bring him in a trade, you have to pay him again, right? So that's going to cost you a lot of money. Maybe the way to go there is you draft an edge rusher. I know a lot of people are looking at James Pierce kind of falling down the board. Ran a 4.47 at the combine yesterday out of Tennessee. Could someone like that be available? And I think that's the way that you address these things, and I think that's still going to be their philosophy going forward.
But he's still built from the draft.
Yeah.
But I say it all the time. You're not going to have all young guys on your team. Not going to have all old guys on your team. You're trying to build a team, okay? And if you got 6 draft picks and you pick 6 people and 5 of them make it, that's building from the draft. But you're going to have to spend money.
Yeah.
People, like I remember when I went up to Philly, I forgot his name, the general manager will always brag every year about how much they were under the cap. And so they asked me that question. I said, well, maybe if he wasn't so far under the cap, maybe we would have won the Super Bowl instead of just being a contender for it.
It's true.
And then after Joe Banner, that's him, after he stopped being there and then they got the guy there now, they won Super Bowls. You know why? Because they wasn't that far under the cap. They spent the money. You have to spend it. And if you draft people and you sign them and you got money and you got a guy out there that can make you much better, go get him.
Yeah.
But I think that Adam did exactly what he said. But people are so accustomed in this town of watching our guys in the front office not do what they say that we are still stuck in that. We got to get to the point where we get past it. Stop living in the past and start going by what you see now.
The next question is, who do they keep in free agency? And I think, when you look at what they did this past season in the offseason where they brought in so many one-year deals, so many guys in free agencies, like you guys have brought up the point plenty of times that if you want to build a sustainable winner, which is another question he has at the bottom here, you kind of want to have that core group together for more than just a year at a time. You want to have guys signed for 2, 3, 4 years and down the line. And so I think when you bring back some of these guys like a Bobby Wagner and a Zach Ertz, I think that's going to be important for this team because they were important last year. But you need to get guys that as soon as they're going to be done, because they're on the last couple legs of their career, maybe a
Yeah.
season or two left for them. You need to have guys that can step up. So hopefully Sinnott takes that step forward
There you go.
so that by the end of next year, however Zach Ertz is doing, you can at least depend on Ben Sinnott.
Yeah.
Same thing with like a Jordan McGee, or if they want to draft another linebacker to fill in once Bobby's done. So that's the thing that they need to figure out here is maybe you bring back a Bobby Wagner, and if he starts taking a step back, you have guys that can fill in and are ready to go.
Well, and I think you look at the people that played, like a Jeremy Chin is somebody I look at too. But what if you have, Quan already on the roster where you think, okay, he can make that step. He had a good year last year. Butler is still there. He had a good year. You start looking into it and say, okay, can we roll some guys into this thing? What they ultimately are trying to get to is having guys at this point where you know who you have and you know who's coming behind them. And if you can start getting it rolling like that, you're good. But to bring Bobby back, Ertz, they helped build this new culture. And they can help go some more. I think you want guys, even if you come with somebody this year, bring a guy that has influence over just his position. Bobby Wagner has the influence over the offense and the defense, especially his position. Hell, he even have influence over the coaches. You hear them talking about how he's in the meeting, he'll see something and bring it to them and help them with their game plan. Zach Ertz, when you saw Jaden get in trouble, who did he look for? Zach Ertz. So you can start having young guys learn from these guys, and it changed that learning curve. Everyone thinks you can come into the league, and I've said it. It takes 2-3 years before you really understand this. But it could be quicker if you got some guys right in front of you who are also talking to you in the locker room. And having that outside of the practice field conversation, which makes things a lot easier, and you see it a lot clearer.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're dead on there. With a guy like Bobby Wagner, part of the reason he was so impactful was not just because he was helping out Frankie Louvu and the guys in the linebacker room, but he's helping dudes at the defensive end position understand, okay, this guy's alignment going to help you know that this is tipping off a run play to the right or the left, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
We talked about this before. Sam Cosme talked about this in camp, how the way that he aligned after the play or whatever, Wagner's like, I could tell that you were pulling, you're going this way, you're running a counter. Mm-hmm. I could tell just by your alignment. And that helps out so you don't do that same sort of thing. And then obviously the relationship with Jaden.
Yeah.
So when you've got a guy on the defensive side that understands the game as well as anybody in the National Football League that plays it still at a high level, helping out your quarterback as a rookie, I think it's really impactful to bring him back.
Jaden and Bobby talked. And they came, they mess with each other. Bobby, the old brother, the big brother, and Jaden, the little brother. But their conversations made both guys grow.
Big time.
Bobby is looking at a quarterback who has unlimited skills. What am I showing you? He can help him get better and flip it over. What did you see? Bobby tell him things which make him now, instead of dropping back and keeping here, look over here a little bit and then come back. If you can make that linebacker settle, it gives you, he has a strong enough arm to get it through gaps. Well, now instead of the gap being 4 yards, it's now 5.5.
Yeah, well, and I mean, if you can get the mind games right for Jaden, which he, I think, started to get in the second half of the year, I mean, just imagine that, being able to play the nuanced drop-back passing game where I'm looking the safety off, I'm moving guys with my eyes, and on top of that, if nothing's there, I can take off and run for 70. Like, that's just the element that, some of these all-time great quarterbacks, they master the quarterback position and were able to do a lot of different things, but they didn't have that cheat code. Where I go back to the play in the divisional round against the Lions, and Tom Brady's on the call, and it almost sounded like Brady was a little bit jealous of Jaden, where he goes, they got a corner blitz off the left, he sees it coming late, he's unblocked, and he just still escapes. He's like, I don't get it. He still picks up like 8 yards. Yeah. Brady was like, if I had that, I was screwed. I had to dump it off to the running back, but he just goes.
Yeah, but like you always want to get into the hands of the playmaker.
Mm-hmm.
Jaden just happened to be a playmaker.
Yeah.
So he already has it in his hands. So it's easy for him to take off if he sees something. But I think early in the season, you would see him, because all the talk about don't run, don't this, he was thinking about everything. In the second half of the season, he just reacted.
Yeah, he was just playing.
And I think that is because of talking to Bobby a lot, looking at the film as he does. When this stuff becomes reactionary, it's all over for this league.